Emergency podcast! Jesus Christ, is that the alarm?
Could we not have planned this timing any better? Well, what's your alarm? Give me your alarms. Do
the Phoenix Suns are the most waived team in the NBA!
Good Lord.
It's not officially an emergency pod, but it basically could very well be one. Welcome in, everybody. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the PHNX Suns Podcast. We got word less than an hour ago from Crispy Haynes. He tweeted out, breaking, the Phoenix Suns have notified star Chris Paul that he will be waived, making the future Hall of Famer one of the top free agents this offseason, league sources tell NBA on TNT and Bleacher Report. What was your reaction when you saw the tweet, you guys?
Oh, shit, I got to get back to the office.
I'm not surprised. I think we've gotten hints of this around the NBA and even locally with Gambo. They've kind of hinted at this happening. So not a big shock. I know it is a shock when you actually see it happen because there's a certain vulnerability to this because you never know who's going to jump out and try to sign them maybe or claim them off of waivers. But I'm not too concerned.
No, it's not shocking. It's, like you said, something that Brian Windhorst hinted at, that Gambo hinted at. It's something that I think our friend David Nash wrote about years ago when they first re-signed him to this contract, the possibility that at this point they could be looking at something like this. And I know there are a lot of questions about waived versus waived and stretched. But this is not surprising, and it doesn't even necessarily mean that Chris Paul's time as a Sun is done.
Right.
If they just waived him, there's a possibility you can still re-sign him if he clears waivers to a veteran minimum contract, and that'll save you a little bit of money. We'll talk about what all that means, but this is not entirely surprising. We kind of have gotten hints that this was coming, and it makes sense for the Suns from a financial standpoint based on some of the things we're learning about the new CBA as well.
What my initial thought was, this is exactly what you had to do. This is the first step to your offseason. Because at worst, you waive him and stretch him. And it's, what, a $5 million cap hit for the next 3 years, right?
Something if you waive him.
And stretch him.
Yeah.
So if you just, if you just waive him, it's 15, but I don't think they're going to do that. And then if somebody picks him up off waivers, guess what? You don't have to pay any of the money. So, I don't think there's any downside here. Like, you could wind up back with him at the veteran minimum. Vet minimum contracts don't count against the cap. So you've saved $15 million at worst in all this.
Okay, so I think we need to dive into all the different scenarios here to really paint the picture, right? Because we've already kind of alluded to a couple of them here.
Sure.
First things first. The report is that he is just being waived.
Yes.
Which means the Suns would still be on the books if he clears waivers for $15.8 million this year. And then he has 48 hours from the time the team officially waives him to clear those waivers. Yes. And then after that, the Suns can resign him to a vet minimum, which at that point they would still owe him the $15.8 million. And that counts on the books, but the vet minimum that he re-signs does not count on the books.
Which all this keeps you under the tax apron. So if the new rules of the CBA go into effect, you'll keep the ability to use the biannual and the mid-level, correct? The exceptions?
Yeah, so there is a misconception that by clearing out, by waiving him and getting rid of that $15 million that was non-guaranteed of his $30.8 million, that you're freeing that money up in cap space. You're not, because the Suns are already going to be over the cap. What you're doing is you are ducking that second luxury tax threshold. And we've been getting conflicting reports about when that second luxury tax apron kind of comes into play, whether it's this summer or next summer. So that's something to keep an eye on as well, because the CBA has not been signed yet, and we still need clarification on when these things come into effect. But if you do get under that second luxury tax, you do have the option to use your taxpayer mid-level exception, which is about worth $7 million annually. That's one of the exceptions that they give every team, whether you're a tax-paying team or a non-tax-paying team, to sign players above the veteran minimum. So it's a crucial team building element for the Suns. This doesn't mean that, they can go out and sign Kyrie now because they got $15 million off the books. He's not signing for the mid-level. Not signing for the mid-level. It doesn't mean you're signing a max-level player or anything like that. But it does mean that you are preserving your ability to use that MLE by staying under that second luxury tax threshold. If they stretch and waive him, however, that changes things. So that would mean that you stretch his $15.8 million in guaranteed salary over the next 3 seasons. You lower your cap hit to about $5 million per year, and you free up an additional, $10 million in books and salary payments. But he'd be unable to re-sign with the Suns if he clears waivers. So if you're stretching and waiving him, that is the end of the Chris Paul era. If you were just waiving him, you can still bring him back. And I would be kind of surprised if they stretched and waived him versus just waived him.
And so far, reportedly, it's just waiving. And it's not that he has officially been waived. It's just that they're planning to waive him.
So here's another question I have about this, and hopefully you can answer this, Gerald. When do they have to make the decision on if they're going to stretch?
I'm not sure. I know that the guarantee date for his contract was June 28th, I'm pretty sure. So I would imagine it's sometime around there, but this report that we got from Chris Haynes just says that they've notified him they're going to waive him. So we're not entirely clear on when that officially goes into effect, when we should expect him to clear waivers officially, which will be 48 hours after he's officially waived. So we're still a little hazy on the actual timeline of when these things take place.
In theory, it could be any time between now and the 28th, or I guess the 26th. Would you have to have it before the official deadline, or can you go all the way up to the 28th?
You can waive him before the 28th as long as it's before that guarantee date for his contract.
So anytime between now and the 28th, the Suns could make this official.
Right.
Yeah, look, I think it's insane that people thought they were going to bring him back at 30.8 and have him as the starting point guard here. It never made any sense, especially if the second tax apron was coming into effect. Even if you're planning on trading DA, this always felt like an inevitability in many ways, because you needed to get that money off the book, especially after the way we saw Chris Paul play at times this past season. It's one thing if he was playing at a level like he was at certain times 2 years ago, but what we saw towards the end of this year, you could not go in with him at a $30.8 million salary, slotted in as your starting point guard, and hamstring yourself from being able to do anything else, really, especially if the new rule came into play. So this feels like the right move at the right time to try to give you some flexibility, because the reality is you're going to have those 2 exemptions and a bunch of veteran minimums or trades to fill out your roster right now. And that's a tough task. But without those 2 exemptions, you were completely screwed.
Right.
Okay, so now let's talk about the gamble that the Suns are taking here. If we're operating under the mindset that the Suns did this in order to bring him back on the vet minimum, okay? He still has to clear waivers. Do you guys think that he will clear waivers? Do you think there's a possibility that another team is willing to take on $30+ million to have Chris Paul join their squad?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Now that could be wrapped up into a multi-year deal, right? So if you clear him on, if you claim him on waivers, you're basically committing to what's on his contract currently is. No, I guess let me rephrase. If they could take on the $30 million, but what if they said, hey, we want to do a 2 or 3 year deal for $50 million? That 30 still hits this year, no matter what, and then the other 20 would be spread out over the next 2. Okay.
Well, he technically still has a year left on his contract for next season, but it's fully non-guaranteed. So I think at that point they would probably look to renegotiate or.
So
whatever.
the 30.8 is this year.
There's one team I could see do this that has the cap space.
Who do you think?
Houston, because he's been there, has a relationship with the city. They supposedly were even considering a reunion with James Harden because they want leadership with their young team. That's
James Harden is the leader.
Well, no, but now Chris Paul.
Weren't there rumors about potentially Chris Paul being linked back there?
Yeah, there was
a few weeks ago.
That's the only kind of team I could see it, and that's probably the only place I could see Chris Paul saying yes, because the LA teams can't pick him up.
Spurs also.
Yeah.
Spurs.
I just can't see Chris. I just can't see Chris Paul at this point in his life. I know he played in Houston and he enjoyed his time in Houston. I just can't see Chris Paul playing for nothing essentially next year. I just can't see that.
No, if he wants to play for something, signing back here at the veteran minimum is probably his best chance, unless he wants to sign for the veteran minimum to go try to, play geriatric ward with LeBron in LA and hope you catch magic. But those maybe the Clippers if he's looking to win a title, but it seems like those would be the three teams you'd consider if all you're worried about is trying to win a ring and not the money.
So you're talking about potential free agency destinations, not who could claim him on waivers.
After he's waived, because the LA teams don't have the money.
Right. So that's my next question. So if he clears waivers and the Suns don't want him back, does he just get the 15 mil from the Suns and then become a free agent officially?
Correct.
Yep.
Like completely
Can do whatever he
relinquish
wants.
all
Sign with any team
ties?
for whatever amount they deem him worth at that
Okay.
point.
But he's guaranteed 15 mil at the very least.
guaranteed
15.8.
15.8 mil either way. I feel like the Spurs, the Rockets, I would need to look at the Pistons cap situation. Obviously, we know the Monty relationship is there in terms of teams that might be willing to take the plunge, younger teams that want to, make that next step that he helped the Thunder make, that he helped the Suns make back in the day, the Clippers as well. So I don't think it's guaranteed. I think it's still highly likely that he clears waivers because $30.8 million is a lot. You have to get significantly under the cap to make that happen. But I also don't think it's impossible. And I think here in Phoenix, a lot of people have soured on him because he's older. He can't stay healthy in the playoffs. And the Suns, as a title contender, need a little bit more reliability out of him. But like around the league, he's still a good player. He still finished top 5 in assists. He still shot 38% from 3. He's still a useful point guard. And so it's not impossible that a younger team with cap space to burn might look at him and say, he can help us get on the right track.
Chris B. Haynes did follow up his initial tweet with saying, to the extent Chris Paul wants to play for a championship. My guess is if he does get cut, his agent's calling around and saying, don't pick this up because he doesn't want to go to a rebuilding or some project. And I think there's enough respect around the league that these GMs, these teams will honor that request from Chris Paul because he's done so much for the game and for the Players Association.
Well, you also don't want to set that precedent as a franchise of just picking up players because you think they're good for your franchise, even though they don't have a viable chance to really do anything of significance personally. Especially, listen, Chris Paul's been in the game for damn near 20 years. He deserves the respect of the league, like Espo said. I really doubt that a team like the Rockets or the Spurs would just completely throw that out the window if it was requested to them and just be like, well, no, we're going to take him no matter what because we need him. Well, then you're not really getting the best and whole heartfelt Chris Paul at that point because he doesn't want to be there. He wants to play for a championship. And to that degree, Chris Paul did phenomenal things for this franchise. And I know we'll get to that in a second. He deserves to get the respect of what he's put into the game for sure.
Can I ask Gerald one more cap question before we move on?
I just want to read the exact Chris B. Haynes quote for that follow-up tweet real quick. It says, Chris Paul plans to play for several more years and is eager to help a team contend for a championship, sources say. I just wanted you guys to have that exact verbiage because also the several more years is kind of giving us a little bit more insight to where his headspace is at because this sounds like it's coming from somebody inside Chris Paul's camp.
Or Chris Paul.
Or Chris Paul himself,
Gerald, quick question, and you may not know this, so I apologize for putting you on the spot, but does this also now open up the ability to sign and trade? Because there was some talk that if you were trying to do a sign and trade with where they were at, it would lock you into that tax apron just via rules. I imagine moving that money out, now you could do a sign and trade involving like a DA for guys that are signing, for a guy signing and coming back. We'll have to look into it if you know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it depends on the guy. And I don't know that significantly changes things on that front. So I'll need some examples of what kind of sign and trade we're talking about here, like a James Harden one or whatnot. But
it seems to give more flexibility in general.
It gives you the flexibility of freeing up your MLE so that you still have that if the new changes to the CBA are in fact in effect this summer, which we have heard that they might not be. So we're not 100% clear on that yet because we still need clarification on when the new CBA kicks in.
Because I've also heard that because we're still technically in this season, that it can't go into effect until the season is officially over. Meaning you don't have to follow the new CBA rules. You can still take on money per the old rules. There's like a little bit of a loophole, I guess, there to some extent. To how far it goes, I could not tell you. But, you know, that's for the masterminds behind the scenes to navigate how to work those loopholes.
Doesn't Deandre Ayton's no trade clause end on June 15th?
Yes.
So that starts to make things interesting in about a week as well with draft and all that coming up too. So.
All right. Before we dive into all of that, a reminder, our friends over at BetMGM are giving away free bets today. That's right. It's Wednesday. If you are already a user of the BetMGM Sportsbook app, make sure you log in to claim your bonus bet on the house. You will receive it simply by logging into your account. It does expire after 72 hours, so don't wait to use it. And if you have not signed up for BetMGM yet, what are you even doing with your life? Sign up right now. Make sure you use that code PHNX because there's a few different offers you can take advantage of depending on where you live. But for our Arizona audience, you will get up to $100 in bonus bets on your first wager with BetMGM. Again, just make sure you use that bonus code PHNX. You can check out the show notes for full details. And now you can listen to Shane talk about the disclaimer.
Disclaimer, 21 plus to wager. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. U.S. promotional offers not available in Washington, D.C., Mississippi, Nevada, New York, and Ontario. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369, New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, Arizona. 1-800-522-4700, Kansas, Nevada. 1-800-327-5050, Massachusetts. 1-800-BETS-OFF, Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help, Michigan.
And of course, I want to tell you about our friends over at Saturday Neon. It's a company that's been started by two friends and former college roommates. They make officially licensed collegiate logo LED neon signs. So whether you are a diehard fan or a casual supporter, you will love the way these signs light up your space in Arizona colors.
Don't bury the lead. It's Arizona colors. So we have a beautiful U of A sign here in our office because they don't do ASU. Because they have class.
And that's why that sign is not on our set, but somewhere else, because Gerald and I absolutely refuse.
Yeah,
But I will say it is high quality. It does look great, even though it's not my cup of tea exactly what's on that sign. The sign itself, fantastic, top-notch quality. They also make really great Father's Day gifts. So again, we got all the ideas for you guys for Father's Day. Go to SaturdayNeon.com. Use code PHNX for 10% off your order today. Free shipping on orders over $200. Again, that code is PHNX. All right. So you guys mentioned, Gambo has been talking about this. Brian Windhorst has been talking about this. It seems like Windy was very in the know and was just trying to hint at us that this was coming.
Mm-hmm.
He was trying to let us know, you guys. Here's what he had to say earlier this week.
Their entire supporting cast, not being a little facetious, is free agents this summer. They can't really pay functionally any of them. I mean, maybe one of them with whatever mid-level they might have.
Wait a minute.
They can pay a couple. But there are going to be suitors for those guys.
Yes. I think the Suns have a little bit more than meets the eye, depending on how they handle the Chris Paul situation.
Right. They've got, well, what do you mean by that? Like, what do they trade Chris Paul and what they get for him?
There are other things to do besides trading Chris Paul.
Stretch Chris Paul.
There are other things that can be done.
I may be dumb. I think Chris Paul's still good.
I think Chris Paul will be a Sun next year. But what if he's a Sun and they don't have to pay him $30 million?
I see. You think Ayton will be a Sun next year?
I think there's a better chance than people think.
I think the chances went up by a non-trivial amount with the hiring of Frank Vogel, who has a good track record with centers.
I think
and
part of the
size.
reason why Frank Vogel got the job was because when he came in, he had an idea of what to do with DeAndre Ayton. It's not the me.
I love the little kind of pause of like something like
There's other
that.
things they can do.
I love you floored Zach Lowe. Zach starts checking against what?
He's like, wait, hold on. What'd you just say?
Like, what do you
Expand
mean
on
by
that, please.
Well, yeah, Windy knows what's going on
Yeah.
here, and he basically just said, "You're going to waive him. He's going to sign for the veteran minimum," like we heard from Gambo as well. And then he intimates DA's back, so we're running it back, is what he's telling us, with a few people added, but with exceptions.
Listen, it would not shock me. I know we talked about this a couple weeks ago, and we said, what is our realistic offseason but outrageous offseason like ideas or whatever? I wouldn't be shocked whatsoever if all 4 of our main guys were back at the start of next season. Chris Paul, Deandre Ayton, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant. I would not be shocked.
I've been on the record saying DA is coming back. I don't think he's going anywhere.
So the thing about this too is that Windy alluded to, what if there's a way that Chris Paul could come back but not at $30 million? It seems like, if you're just reading between the lines, putting the pieces of the puzzle together here, like both sides are in agreement here. Chris Paul knows he needs to give up some of that money for the betterment of the team. He still wants to play on a championship contender. The Suns are a championship contender. Like, it seems to me, if in a perfect world, and I might be trying to speak this into existence for my benefit here and the benefit of the Suns and all of the fans, that they're in agreement here, that this is what we're doing. And we're going to have the conversations through agencies to tell other teams to back off, that we're just making moves so that we can free up some space to make other moves.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. I'm not sure how much this affects the DA situation. I think they're still independent of each other. I think, like we've been saying all week, I think that hiring Frank Vogel does not mean that you're keeping DA for sure, but it definitely increases those chances, and it means that if you do keep him, you stand a better chance of maximizing what he brings defensively. I do think they'll still probably explore the trade market for him, based on what we've been hearing from Mat Ishbia from day one and then recently, which we'll get to. But yeah, they're going to be aggressive. They were not going to pay Chris Paul $31 million for what he's providing at this point in time. They need more flexibility. They're doing that. Hopefully they're able to bring them back, because I do think he's still a useful NBA player, whether he's off the bench or whether he's your starter. But
wait, so you think that if he clears waivers and re-signs with the Suns on a vet minimum, that they would still explore trade options?
No,
for
DA.
DA.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I
Yeah,
just wanted to make sure.
no,
I wasn't
yeah.
sure if I heard that correctly.
Yeah, for DA, I still
Gotcha.
think that it's not guaranteed he'll be back. I think
Right.
it's seeming more likely with the Vogel hire and everything like that, but I still think they're going to explore their options, because Ishbia is that kind of aggressive guy. He's going to leave no stone unturned. It will come down to what kind of offers they're getting for DA and whether they think they can push them closer to that championship.
Oh, it'd be negligent if you didn't at least have the DA conversations, because
right.
if you could get 2 extremely good guys that you like for one guy that you're, maybe lukewarm on or feel like you can turn around, you got to at least consider it with where you are cap wise. So if they're not taking calls and listening, that's negligent on
Agreed.
James Jones' part.
But here's the thing, though. I do think that while you do have to make those phone calls, you do have to have those conversations. I think if all of this plays out with Chris Paul, where he does return to the Phoenix Suns after clearing waivers, this takes more pressure off of the need to kind of trade DeAndre in order to make any type of a move.
Yeah.
And then in addition to that, if you watched this entire video between Zach Lowe and Brian Windhorst, Zach Lowe went on to say that he has heard that Mat Ishbia has a fondness for DA. That's exactly what he said. So, and Mat Ishbia, which we'll get into this later in the show, said really nice things about DA yesterday when he had his interview with Arizona Sports as well. That could just be public speak, of course. But I think with Zach Lowe saying that he's heard behind the scenes that he has a fondness for DA, you do have those conversations, but I don't think that relationship is broken. I think that they have found a way to already start connecting.
Yeah, today feels like creative accounting.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
You're moving things around the ledger to try to figure out how you can free things up, and that they very well may have had some conversations with Chris Paul about this. And today was just the day that they said, yeah, we're committing to the waive option and we hope you consider coming back. I don't blame him if he listens to other people and then decides if he's going to come back. But I think today was creative accounting.
I agree. I mean, listen, there is a scenario where Chris Paul has another team that he thinks is a contender that somehow, some way they can work something out. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that this is the end of Chris Paul's time in Phoenix. I just personally don't think it is.
Yeah, I just think that there's a lot of factors that are playing in a positive direction for the Suns. And to restart all over with another franchise, unless it's the Clippers or the Lakers, because it is home. LA is home for Chris Paul. I just don't see it. At this point, he's got like a couple years left, at the most, and he's going to want to take advantage of that as much as possible. And he's going to want to put himself in a better situation. And I think that's the pitch that the Suns are making. Like, listen, we're going to sacrifice this kind of money, or you're going to sacrifice this kind of money because there's some issues that we feel like we need to address, especially in the playoffs. We need a solid backup point guard, or we need some players that can actually help out, and which will help you out. And I think that's the pitch that you make if you're the Suns. And the Suns are in a good position. I mean, listen, the Lakers have AD and LeBron, and the Clippers have Kawhi and Paul George. But we've seen those two franchises kind of go through it just like us. And I think it's very viable to say that Chris Paul could come back. I think it's more likely he comes back than goes somewhere else.
Was there not an article in the last 2 to 3 weeks, somebody saying that league sources are saying that the Suns were going to pick up his option, and then he was going to be, what was that?
It's just a tweet, right?
It was a tweet.
Was it a tweet? Gotcha. I could have sworn it was an article and there was a little line in there, but maybe I'm misremembering. Either way, because we don't know for sure what the future holds for Chris Paul and the Phoenix Suns organization, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, we won't throw the whole bouquet at him, but I think we could give Chris Paul some flowers here for what he has done so far in Phoenix. I mean, if anybody deserves him, I feel like he does.
Well, I listen, I've been a pretty staunch, not Chris Paul. I'm not going to say hater, because I was not a hater, but I will say that I was very disappointed that, through multiple playoff scenarios, he kept getting injured. And it wasn't really disappointed in him. It was just, damn the luck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I said that several times on our pods. But I will also say that Chris Paul is a tremendous person. He supported the community. He supported the Mercury. He's been at countless games. He helped get this franchise. Listen, if we've been talking about Monty being the Mark Jackson of our franchise possibly, and then maybe Frank Vogel will be the Steve Kerr, right? Well, I also think that Ricky Rubio was the Mark Jackson point guard for us, and Chris Paul was the one that took us over the top and got us to the finals. I think there's some validity to that. And if Chris Paul's not here, I don't think, we make the finals. I don't think we have nearly as much success as we've had the last 3 years, without a doubt. And I don't think Booker has the amount of growth that he's shown over the last 3 years because of that. So Chris Paul deserves all the flowers in the world. He's a tremendous player, one of the greatest point guards of all time. We were so fortunate to have him. And when he was at his peak, man, I don't know if there was another point guard in the league that was just beautiful to watch because of the way he just manipulated everything. It was a science, and it was awesome.
Yeah, he was instrumental. I mean, first season here in the Valley, they get to the finals for just the third time in their franchise's history. That in itself, the 3 seasons he spent here were Ring of Honor worthy for me. He was incredible, and he was the first superstar teammate that Book got to play with. He was the reassurance that your loyalty to this organization, your faith in us to build around you was not misplaced. We are going to get this thing off the ground. And I think because of the way that last season went, because of the injuries, because of the loss to the Mavericks, people have kind of forgotten how good Chris Paul was in those 2 seasons before that. And even the series before the Mavericks series, when he literally was perfect from the field in an elimination game in New Orleans to help get them to the second round in a game where Book was coming off a hamstring injury. The guy was incredible in his first 2 seasons here, especially. He's been monumental to what they're building on and off the court over that time. And he will go down as one of the greatest point guards in Suns franchise history easily.
He reminded the rest of the NBA that Phoenix is a destination.
Mm-hmm.
It was the end. It was the official end of the dark era. The period that was just somehow this great franchise fell so far from grace that it was a laughing stock. And Chris Paul, by saying, I want to be in Phoenix, that's the destination I want to be with, I want to play with Devin Booker, changed that entire perspective before he even stepped on the court. Mm-hmm. And then when he took him to the finals, it reminded the entire league again, oh crap, this team could be a juggernaut because it's a great city, an unbelievable fan base, and they got a star in Devin Booker. So there is no KD without Chris Paul coming here. There's no, they have a championship window without Chris Paul making that decision. And I don't think there's as much Monty Williams success as he had without Chris Paul being here. And you've got to give him all the credit in the world. All this came down to is math. $30.8 million was too much for the production at that point with everything else you had on the cap. This was not a condemnation of Chris Paul, the person or the player. What he's done for this city, what he meant to this team is unbelievable. And I think he helped Devin Booker grow into that leader and take that next step from borderline star to true star in this league.
Yeah. So flowers to Chris Paul. Before we move on to our next topic, is there anything else that you guys want to share around the situation right now? Or do you feel like we've kind of shared everything that needs to be shared until we have further information?
Buckle up. This is going to be a crazy offseason. We've seen it in 2 weeks. It's been nuts, and it's just going to keep going.
Lindsay spent an hour and a half in my office going through the rundown, and then it all blew up about 30 minutes before the show. So, yeah, that's the offseason. That's how it's going to go.
It is. Here's the thing, too. Like, we're going to talk about Mat Ishbia next, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I'm feeling good about his ability to work within what he is able to do within the rules, right? But finding the ways to maximize what you're able to do within those rules, if that makes sense. And I like that about him. I do. But first, before we talk about Mat Ishbia, lunch today should be a legal Pete's or happy hour. I guess it'd be like a late lunch. I eat lunch after the show.
How late do you eat lunch?
After the show.
She wakes up at noon.
I wake up at noon, breakfast at 12:30, lunch is at 4:30, guys. I thought we had already just established this. So, sorry. Happy hour for a normal person. Illegal Pete's. Lunch if you like to sleep in and you're a night owl like me. Happy hour is now from 3 to 8 p.m. daily. They have extended their happy hour hours. So make sure you guys take advantage of that. Illegal Pete's has irresistible drinks and mouth-watering food. The best margaritas in town. They also have bowls, tacos, salads, burritos, nachos, and so much more. So make sure that you guys are checking out our friends over at Illegal Pete's. You can stop by on Margarita Monday at Illegal Pete's, exclusive to Arizona locations. They've got $3 margs all day, every Monday. Nothing brightens up a Monday more than soaking up the sun with a few margaritas. And don't forget about Taco Tuesdays, $2 tacos every day on Tuesday. Enjoy your favorites, whether it's chicken, pork, or veggie tacos for just $2. So swing by and start your week off the right way at Illegal Pete's. Probably should have read this one on Monday, to be completely honest.
Margarita Monday.
Now you have a plan for next week, Monday and Tuesday at Illegal Pete's. But here's the deal: happy hour, like I said, is every day. So
you see what's happening in the chat right now?
I do not.
People are threatening to boycott so we can have a trade machine Thursday.
Oh,
but there's nobody left that you can actually deal.
Excuse me.
Damn.
I'm going to put you guys in timeout.
How many DA trades are we going to be able to come up with?
All of them.
We're going to trade him for every player in the league by the end.
Oh, man.
I wasn't lying. Like, I would like to see some Devin Booker proposals, not because I think we should trade Devin Booker by any stretch of the imagination. It's just because the trade machine can only last so long if we're only trading one player. So let's just talk hypothetically and get roasted for it.
We'll probably get there.
You guys are lucky.
In July or August.
Probably.
Trade KD.
I'm just going to say, you guys in the chat are very lucky that I didn't bring my Shady Rays with me, or else I would be throwing shade at you right now. But since I don't have the sun for this idea of doing a trade machine Thursday.
I wish we could do.
Emma's right.
Trade
It's a
machines
horrible
twice a week.
idea.
Trade machine
All I know
weekday.
is that you're lucky I didn't bring my Shady Raisin with me today, or else I would be throwing shade at you. But I do love my Shady Rays. They are premium polarized shades, and they also offer the most insane protection in all of eyewear because every pair of Shady Rays is backed by lost and broken replacements, which means if you lose or break your pair even on day one, they told us they will send you a brand new pair. No questions asked. They have your back long after you purchase. And right now, exclusively for our listeners, which you're lucky that we're being nice to you, even though you said those things in the chat. Shady Rays is giving you their best deal of the season. So go to shadyrays.com, use code PHNX for 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people.
I just love the fact that you guys are all getting a glimpse of what we have to deal with on a day-to-day basis because Lindsay is always threatening us every single day. Somebody help.
What does that even mean?
Somebody help.
What does that even mean?
Did you see Jay? He said we should.
I didn't threaten any of you.
You can just tell by the tone of that voice that is a damn lie.
I have never
in my entire life threatened a single person. Ever.
No, only a group of people.
Yeah. You're just gonna lie to the people's faces.
I know, right?
Jay wants us to trade extended family members. Like,
I got one
which extended
Our
family?
extended family
He
members?
just said that.
Damn.
Jay, now
That's
you just want
cold.
all the drama and all the tea. You're being nosy. Jay.
She about to come after you, Jay.
Oh man, be careful. Chelsea's gonna come out.
Oh no.
Jay.
Well, that's what happens when you
Lindsay's
recommend
never
Trade
threatened
Machine
anyone. It's been
Thursday.
Never.
Chelsea.
I have
Yeah.
never in my
Just Chelsea.
life. I am a sweet baby angel as well.
Oh wow. Emma says
Sometimes.
no.
Sometimes.
Emma's
You're like,
only time she turns on the mic today is to say, my ass to Lindsay. Oh.
I bet you they heard it still, though. All right. For real, let's get back on the rails. Let's talk a little bit about Mat Ishbia. As I mentioned early in the show, he joined Arizona Sports yesterday, and he shared quite a few things. First and foremost, we'll talk about Frank Vogel. Obviously, Frank Vogel did say some things about Deandre Ayton in his presser yesterday that we all kind of collectively, as a group of Suns fans, really attached to. Specifically, he talked about restoring him to an all-star level player. And Mat Ishbia was asked if that was a part of what made Frank Vogel appealing to him.
You know, that didn't appeal him to me. The reality is, Coach Vogel is going to be a great coach with the guys that we put on the court. Deandre Ayton's a great player. Any coach that watches basketball knows the talent and the ability of Deandre. And so that doesn't surprise me or impress me that he thought that way. The way I thought about it is, what kind of guy? I've seen him coach great players, great big men, great guards, and what can he do with our guys? And then how do we put great guys on their team? Because we actually have some moves we have to make with free agents and the draft, a lot of things happening to put the best people on the court to win a championship. And we got, some great stars, as Frank talked about at the press conference. And at the same time, we have a lot of pieces to continue to fill in. And so we're very excited about it. And so his and love of certain guys was great to hear. But at the same time, that didn't sway the decision. He was the winner, as in he was the best option for the Phoenix Suns, not only for this year, but for the future, building the Phoenix Suns program the way we see it.
I don't quite understand why people took this as such a negative towards DA. Yesterday, the chatter on Twitter and the other
It's not a negative, but he's kind of walking back this sentiment that was very widespread that Vogel speaking positively about DA means they're definitely committed to him.
No, because what he said was that's not why they hired Frank Vogel. They hired him because he was the right guy for the job and not necessarily because of his views on specific players. I felt like a lot of Twitter was like, this means they're trading him, see? And it's like, no, there's a nuance to what he's saying. They did not hire Frank Vogel because he likes the roster. They hired Frank Vogel because he's the right guy to take them where they're going.
Regardless of who they put on his roster.
Right, but that's open when you've only got like 4 or 5 guys under contract and you're asked about one specifically and that's your response. You're basically letting it be known like nobody is really off limits here except for our 2 main guys. Like he's not saying that explicitly, and he's not saying that DA is necessarily gone either, but he did talk about being aggressive. He did talk about we need to make a lot of different moves. He mentioned the draft, free agency, all these different things. Like, he did walk it back compared to what the sentiment of the day had been when he was given an opportunity to be like, yeah, we love that he had a plan in place for DA or something like that.
But why would you, I mean, because we talked about it, they should listen, right?
Yeah.
So if they get some kind of Godfather offer, they're
well, they shouldn't just listen. They should make calls as well.
Okay.
Like,
but if that's the mindset, Ishbia shouldn't just come out, and I'm not saying you're saying this, but I think the internet wanted him to come out and go, well, Deandre Ayton's part of this roster. Like, and that's the only way they were going to feel like that was, you know, in line with what Frank Vogel said. And this is just smart. You don't answer in uncertainties because there is nothing certain.
Yeah.
I mean, there's zero things certain. And Frank Vogel was simply saying he likes the potential of DA. He sees how he could work with him. And Mat Ishbia is simply saying we didn't hire him because he thinks he can fix DA.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to commit to anything right now.
But also, like, you know, Vogel knew he was going to get the DA question. So he was ready for it. And he was like, hey, and like I said yesterday, you got to deal with the certainty of what you know at the current point, right? So the roster was what it was yesterday. He even mentioned CP3. I don't know if he knew if he was going to be released today or not, but he talked about him, you know, in conjunction with the whole team and having 4 great players. And so, like, I don't read too much into this, and I think a lot of people want to pick apart certain things to you know, to fit certain narratives and stuff like that. It doesn't matter. We don't know what this roster is going to look like. I don't even know if Frank Vogel even knows what this roster is going to look like by the end. They have an idea of what direction they'd like to go, but shit, even James Jones is probably right now like he probably has some magical big board somewhere, and he's like, well, if we could do this, we can do this, and we could do this, and his capologist comes in and says, we can't do that, we can't do that, we can't do that, and they just kind of work it until they got a good picture, and then they try to execute it, and that's that.
You mean like somebody getting hung up on one word like fun yesterday?
Jesus Christ.
I went back and listened. That was a little stupid on my part. I'm just going to admit that.
It's fine. It's fine. But yeah, I think to your point, that kind of reinforces the idea that everyone listening to Vogel was like, oh, this means we're definitely keeping DA. I feel like Ishbia kind of walked that back a little bit, like you're saying. Like, they're going to keep their options open. They're going to explore a lot of options this summer, and that's what they should do. That's what we've been saying they should do with both Chris and DA.
And I don't even think that – don't kill me, chat, okay? I don't even think that that's only for – like, if you're a good organization – you listen to any phone call to see what your options are. Because what if some crazy-ass blockbuster deal came in for, like, KD or freaking Devin Booker? Like, you got to look at those things and hear them out because you don't know when you're going to miss an opportunity. Now, that's not what's happening. Just want to be clear. There's no rumors of KD and Devin Booker being traded. I just want to say that out loud, literally, for everybody out there.
I'm only going to clip the part before your disclaimer and put on the internet.
I can't fucking wait.
Damn.
Awesome.
I'm gonna tag you in it too.
Wasn't that a threat just now?
No.
Yes. See what I mean?
It was a promise, Jared.
I don't feel safe, and now she's already coming at me.
It's not a threat. It's I'm telling you what I'm going to do.
Yeah, I'm just giving you it's a courtesy. You're welcome.
When I drive over to the house, I'm going to punch you in the face. Oh, that makes it better.
Here's the thing. I do think, though, just naturally as human beings, I think this is something that we do is we find the thing that kind of helps solidify what our feelings are or what we want to happen, right? If you want to keep Deandre in, you're going to roll with what Frank Vogel said. If you want to move Deandre in, you're going to roll with what Mat Ishbia said and try and make it seem like he really wants to move DA or whatever it may be. Like, it's natural to do some of those things. But here's the deal. Mat Ishbia also said that they know as an organization they have a lot of work to do. And he was asked specifically if he has made or if they have made a decision on Chris Paul and DA. And this is what he said.
Had a bunch of conversations around that stuff right now. What we focus on, first off, Chris Paul's an ultimate winner, one of the best point guards ever to play. Deandre Ayton's an up-and-coming star. He's already a star, but could be a superstar. Like, I love those guys, and I think very highly of them. Now, with that being said, like, we have to have all those conversations and understand the overall construct of our team with our head coach, with our organization, and all pieces. And that's not just those guys. It's everybody through the organization. And so, but that we haven't gone through those conversations yet. What we're focusing on right now is getting the best coaching staff around, and that's what we're working on, and that's what we did. And then we're going to figure out, okay, the draft and free agency, and teams will be calling us about trades. Like, we have to evaluate our roster, and how do we put the right pieces in place to win an NBA championship, which is not easy.
Can I paraphrase this?
Sure.
Anything is possible.
I mean, yeah.
That's what he's saying.
Basically, they need to have more conversations and figure it out, and then we will know by the start of next season. That's for sure.
Yeah. Sources close to the Suns say we'll know what their roster is by the start of next season.
But here's the
breaking
thing.
news.
He did say nice things about Chris Paul. He said nice things about Deandre Ayton. So he's saying all the right things as far as if those two guys were to remain on this team, but he's probably still open to having the conversations, like we've said 17 times on the show already, about moving them. And he's got to have those conversations because now we're getting even more word about Chris Paul.
Breaking news.
I like Espo's better, I think.
Emma.
Do it again. No, but that's like a that's a celebratory
We like
thing.
the broke down ambulance
I like
over
the
here.
ambulance better.
Breaking news.
Giro, read the tweet.
Breaking news alerts.
So Shams Charania tweeted in the middle of our show, sources, the Suns and Chris Paul are exploring multiple options, including a trade, stretching his contract, or waiving and re-signing him, or re-signing him in free agency. Re-signing him.
Re-signing him.
That's what my niece calls me.
Re-signing.
Phoenix is expected to discuss trades ahead of Paul's June 28th contract date. So basically, Chris Haynes' report is only part of what the conversation with Chris Paul was that they notified him about.
What I see is Chris B. Haynes' tweet was the starter flare to let everybody know Chris Paul is now available.
The game has started.
And Shams' tweet was, and you may make your trade offers now.
So basically what we have here is all the three options that we had before this shit.
Can I paraphrase this, Gerald?
Yeah, go ahead.
Anything is possible.
God bless. So I was curious whether, when we first were operating under the assumption that they told Chris Paul that they were going to waive him, I was wondering, have they already explored trades and did they not like what they found? Yeah. This, again, opens the door possibility to a trade, to keeping him or to stretching him. So it doesn't, I feel like that's a lot of different diverging paths to have a conversation with a guy about, like, hey, we might trade you. We might want to bring you back. We might stretch you and then you can't come back. Like, I don't understand how that conversation really goes. Like, what do you call? You call and tell them, yeah, our options are all of the different options.
Maybe they were like, hey, what would you prefer?
Yeah.
Would you like us to try to find a trade if there are? What kind of teams are you looking at? If we're going to go the waive route, would you prefer we just let you choose wherever you want to go? Or do you want to talk coming back? I mean, maybe it was more laid out in respect for him than calling up and be like, we're not sure what we're going to do, but something's going to happen, Chris. Just be aware.
I think you're spot on with that, Espo, that maybe they came to him and said, listen, like, we value these aspects of what you bring to the table, but this dollar amount we cannot work with this season. Yeah. So here's where we are. This is what we would like, but what do you want to do here?
By the way, Shams deleted his tweet and took out the re-signing and changed it to re-signing.
I like re-signing.
I like.
Shams
does that
me nuts.
He deleted it because I just quote tweeted it, which means I just quote tweeted it. This tweet is now deleted.
He drives me nuts with that shit because I swear he does that so often.
Doesn't he have Twitter Blue where he can just edit?
You would think.
Shams.
Oh, fucking Jay.
What did he say?
He said earlier, Emma. He said they should have had Espo and Mrs. Officer by Lil Wayne. And now I can't hear it.
Now we're gonna have to remix that. Good Lord.
Do we need to make that?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things you got to make.
That's a mashup the world needs.
Oh my God.
So does the Shams thing, anything else from that, or is it just kind of that's it? It's like, here are the options we just talked
about. Sounds like we literally told him, hey, we don't know what we're doing with you yet, but here are our options.
I feel like there has been a couple times where Chris B. Haynes has shared something and then we get a follow-up from Shams or Woj or whatever, and is similar or the complete opposite.
Yeah. And in the
But
story,
it's not outside of the realm of normal that Shams would tweet something right now.
right. In the story, it speaks to Espo's point. It said that they intend to find a resolution this offseason that fits the veteran star and the Suns organization, which could include parting ways. So they're trying to come to an understanding of what they want to do for both of their sakes.
And
I
that's
guess.
Shams' article.
Yes,
not
that's
Crispy Haynes.
Shams' article.
Yeah.
So
Look,
Stay
As
tuned.
it should be, though. As it should be. We
Yeah.
just talked about all of the great things Chris Paul did for this franchise. This franchise should return the favor in this type of a situation.
so they just put the 3-week clock on.
Yeah.
Because the 28th is 3 weeks from today. So they said, all right, here we go. 3 weeks. Give us your best offers. We'll figure out what Chris wants to do. And let's go.
All right. We do have some super chats to get to and one final Mat Ishbia quote that I want to share with you guys. But when the Suns are back, you can watch them on Fubo TV. And in the meantime, you can watch over 140 live channels of sports, shows, movies, and news until Phoenix Suns basketball is back. You can stream live TV from any device. I've told you guys this before, but their mobile app is probably one of my favorite streaming apps to use because it's so user-friendly and I just love the interface and all the things about it. So if you guys have not checked out Fubo TV, make sure that you are getting in on the action. Use the link in the description to sign up for 15% off your first month of Fubo Pro. That is FuboTV.com/PHNX. Make sure you check it out so you can get no contract, no cable, no hassle. You just get to sign up and start watching with Fubo TV. Also, our friends over at Four Peaks, they're doing some great things for the teachers. Told you guys about this before too, but make sure you get in on the action and nominate a teacher for some really cool things. Every year, Four Peaks donates school supplies to teachers around the valley. This year, they're giving away 11 $1,000 cash grants, and one lucky teacher will win a teacher's lounge renovation provided by Four Peaks. Go to 4peaks4teachers.org to complete the form to enter their chance to win. You have to nominate by June 30th, so make sure you get those nominations in sooner rather than later. And if you are a teacher, you could hang out at the Four Peaks Pub in Tempe on Teachers Tuesdays, because every Tuesday through July, if you bring a valid teacher ID, you'll receive $4 pints of Kilt Lifter, Wow, Hazy, and Hop Knot. Again, that is 4peaks4teachers.org. Make sure you check out at Four Peaks Brew or at Four Peaks Pub to keep up with the latest at Arizona's hometown brewery. And as a reminder, and as always, you do have to be 21 or older to drink Four Peaks beer, and we ask that you drink responsibly. Here's one thing that I do know when it comes to Mat Ishbia. Money is not a thing.
No.
No, we're not letting money stop us from being successful. We're going to be successful. We're going to focus on winning and being successful. Money will follow. We're not stopping because of contracts or dollar amounts. And so to get the best team available, you need to have the best coaches, the best training staff, the best massage therapists, the best whatever it may be on the stage, like every aspect, the best security people, every aspect of the organization. And I talked about in my press conference when I bought the team. We're not going to, money follows success. We're not going to, nickel dime different things. If we can get the right people, the right stuff, we got David Fisdale too, who's an amazing coach. Him and Kevin Young, along with Frank Vogel. I mean, we're going to put an all-star cast around and do our best to win a championship.
The best nachos, the best floor sweeper, the best jumbotron, the best parking attendant, the best everything.
I'm
love
here
that.
for it. It's just a really nice change of pace for Phoenix Suns fans. Like, listen, again, there are rules and regulations around what you can do with the actual team on the court. But beyond that, at least he's willing to spend the money to do whatever he can to make this organization as good as possible. I'm here for it.
It's not even Phoenix Suns fans.
This is
I mean,
fair.
we got
Arizona
some franchises
fans.
here that just have been buried because of the lack of investment that they're making into their own franchises. And we finally get one who wants to put his money where his mouth is. And I think it's terrific. I wish that the rules were back to what they were this last season and not changing all of a sudden, but hey, we'll deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is consistent with what he told us on day one about money and success and which one follows which. Like, this tracks for Ishbia. It's a great change of pace compared to what we had last time around. And it's one of the reassuring things, even as we head into this new CBA where teams are penalized for going too far above the luxury tax, that he's going to be willing to spend and do what it takes to put a champion on the floor.
He does not squeak when he walks like the former owner.
Right.
What was that? Greta? Was that her
Greta,
name
yes.
that came out during that hearing?
Greta the goat.
Yeah, Greta ain't having to worry about Mat Ishbia squeaking when he walks. The man has the money and he's willing to spend it.
Oh, Greta, a Suns legend
Emma
forever.
looks a little confused.
Emma wasn't around for Greta.
okay.
We'll fill you
in
in.
later.
Yeah, we got you. All right, we got some super chats to get to. I have an apology to make to Frank and Leo because yesterday I forgot to read their super chats.
You didn't read Frank's big super chat on his big day?
I know.
Damn.
I really
Vogel.
dropped the ball.
It's no
My
longer his
bad.
big day.
So I'm sorry, but here are your super chats now. Frank sent us one and said, Espo making a Christopher Walken MLK quote. Because we did revisit that bit yesterday. If you missed yesterday's show, you should go listen.
And the only prescription is more darkness.
Lord have mercy.
Well,
That was pretty good, actually. I'm not gonna lie. Leo sent us a super chat. Thank you, Leo, for yours, and said, "Y'all remind me of Guardians of the Galaxy. Lindsay as Mantis, Saul as Groot, Gerald as Quill, and Espo as Drax."
I don't even know anything about Guardians of the Galaxy, so I don't think I like the fact that I'm a fucking tree bark. But that's okay.
Groot is one of the best characters, though.
Hold on, but
Is
Saul's
he?
the guy that
Yes.
only says, I am Groot. And I'm the big dumb guy.
Awesome.
I was good with mine.
Awesome.
Of course you are, Gerald. I like Mantis, though. I think Mantis is underrated. She
Mantis
kept that
is
group together.
fantastic. She was
So,
best. She was the
you're
best
welcome.
character in the new one.
Again.
So you're welcome, she says.
I gotta keep you guys together.
I couldn't even get Rocket, like the angry hairy one. Like,
Nope.
no.
Nope.
I wanna-
Sorry.
what's the raccoon?
Rocket.
That's Rocket.
Oh,
Yeah. I think these are fun. I
Also,
feel like it works.
Hate that ride at Disneyland, by the way.
What, Guardians?
Mm-hmm.
I am Saul.
Can you make that a thing, Saul?
No.
Just do it. Lean into it, Saul. Lean into it.
No.
He said no because you'll clip it forever. He knows you, Emma.
I don't even know what it's about, so
We
I
know
can't
your
even say it the
game.
way it would be said.
Book. And
All right, a couple more super chats. Submerged Suns fan said, I keep hearing about Imani Bates. Who is he? Heard he's close to KD, and are we trying to get a lotto pick?
So Imani Bates he was a highly regarded recruit coming out of college. He went to Memphis, was injury prone over there, transferred to Eastern Michigan because that's where he's from. Measurable wise, he's 6'10". He can score. There's some questions about, his off the court stuff and things of that nature. So he's one of those prospects that originally would have been a top 10 prospect in the draft. He's dropped down these last 2 years. So you might be able to find yourself in a position to get him somewhere in the second round if you're the Suns. So that's why there's been speculation. A couple outlets have had him going somewhere in the 50 range where the Suns are. I think they picked 52nd in this year's draft. So that's why you've heard a little bit of speculation about that.
Cool. Thanks, Saul. Appreciate you.
And to
All
answer the other part of the question, I don't know that they're trying to get a lottery pick.
You wouldn't need to for Bates, though.
No.
Nah.
But I think he
it's
asked
an
that question
additional?
separately.
Well, I think that came into play when we started talking about different trade scenarios and that third and fifth pick maybe being available, all that kind of stuff. So we have talked a lot about that, but I don't know that it came anywhere remotely close from the actual franchise.
I'd be shocked if you have Devin Booker and Kevin Durant and you trade one of your two tradable contributors for a draft pick and use it on a rookie. I'll just say that. I would be shocked.
Okay. Libertarian Sasquatch said Gambo is on a heater this offseason. And that was in reference to, of course, the talking about waiving Chris Paul and his stuff around the contracts this week.
He's been spot on with the coaching, stuff. There's been a lot of things. So hats off to Gambo. The Reaper has been sowing well.
Can I just say I love that he's leaned into the Reaper?
I know, I do too.
I think it's funny.
I love it. I was afraid when we were giving him crap that I was going to get a phone call. Hey, Espo, what are you doing over there? And
nobody loves it.
No, he does.
Which is
He leans into
fantastic.
it.
Here for it. All right. And then Jeff, thank you for your super chat and said, hey guys, please tell me they have a plan at point guard. Any chance we can land a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or Damian Lillard? I know I'm a dreamer.
Yeah.
And you're not the only one.
And it's free. So
Listen,
nobody got that.
it would be wonderful. But didn't you send something about Dame today? He said that if he were to move teams, didn't you send that?
No, it was.
Or I didn't get to see
some
it.
podcast guy put him on the spot and said, "Well, there's all these rumors, and they say Miami or Brooklyn or Boston would want you. If you had to be, if you were actually traded to one of these three places, where would you want to be?" And he laughs and he goes, "Well, Miami, obviously, they're in the finals." But then he goes, "But Brooklyn, they got my boy Mikal Bridges." I was like, "Oh, wait for every Suns fan to get a hold of this. Their freaking heads are going to explode. We could have had Dame if we kept Mikal."
No, you couldn't have.
Who was the other one that got in on the action? I think he either retweeted and said, "Wait, hold on, I was your boy too."
Josh Hart.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, nobody cares what Josh Hart tweets anymore after.
No, but I just, what is it with this thing just falling down randomly throughout the shows? That's the second time in 2 weeks.
That was kind of creepy.
Do we have a ghost in this office?
We must have a ghost. And every time we talk about Josh Hart and his breast milk, this fucking thing happens.
No, did this really happen the last time we talked about Josh Hart? Are you dead serious right now?
We got the ghost of Josh Hart up in this bitch, and I don't know why.
That's wild.
How exciting.
How exciting.
I hope it's a nice Josh Hart. Okay. Well, any final thoughts, you guys? I think that's a good place to end.
I'm terrified now.
We got ghosts. The ghost is obviously nice. If it was mean, it would have already done something to you, Espo. You're fine.
Why are you tempting fate?
Why would it have done something to me?
I don't know.
We got a breast milk ghost. Great. What the hell is going on in this show?
I don't like that at all.
Dear Lord.
Yeah.
What does it say?
That's why it would have done something mean to Espo because of that right there.
Did you hear Saul's dad joke?
That was awful.
Wow. No, I missed it.
And you should be ashamed. I'm proud of you, but you should be ashamed.
I'm proudly ashamed of you, Saul.
I'm really glad I missed it at this point. I don't think I'm going to go back and watch it. I'm going to just count my blessings with that one.
Brian wants to know who's most likely to be possessed. Lindsay.
Yes.
No.
1,000,000%. Yes.
No.
Yes.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, I'm not going to throw you under the bus, but there it goes.
I could say something really mean right now, but I'm not going to.
Oh.
Now I'm just having the internal
You're
do
debating.
I
Let it
not
fly,
do it?
Lindsay. Come
No, I'm
on.
not doing it.
Oh,
Thank you guys
I don't
for
like
joining
it. Do we
us.
have more?
hold on.
Gerald!
Breaking news!
I don't control when
What do we
Woj
got?
tweets. Hold on. I'm reading. I'm reading.
This show is so weird.
All right.
I can't handle the
Breaking news from Girth.
Okay, so Woj basically is doubling down on the things that Shams already told us about. They're having these conversations with Chris Paul about his future and the possibility he could be waived before the June 28th guarantee date. They insist they're still working through several possibilities on his future and reiterated to his reps later Wednesday. Phoenix plans to explore trade opportunities, including Paul and Deandre Ayton, that could alter the franchise's roster landscape.
Ooh,
And they're looking to re-sign Chris Paul as
Oh, my
possible.
goodness
So
gracious.
basically the same thing that Sham said about Chris Paul, Woj is doubling down on, but also mentioned that DA is being included in possible trade
Again, none of
scenarios.
this is surprising.
No.
We fully expected those two to be the ones that were going to be explored the most, and here we are.
There we are.
Not surprising, yet the most chaotic that we could possibly
Yes.
have.
Yes.
So I think we're in the clear now as far as any sort of
Why do you keep tempting fate like
no,
that?
because we already got the Crispy Haynes one, we got Shams, and we got Woj. Like those are the three main players, I would say.
We
for the
better
most
check
part.
Gambo's Twitter feed before we go. Let's
We'll
make
just
sure.
hurry up and look.
Nothing.
Real
I'm
quick.
looking.
We may
I'm
as well.
looking.
But I don't know that we have any more ambulances.
No, we're good.
for the
no,
day.
No more Wii U. All right?
Yeah. Although I am a little sad because that shit cracked me up. That was fantastic. Okay, now for real, thank you guys for joining. We appreciate you as always. We will be back tomorrow at 3 p.m., so plan to join us then. And until we see you next time, follow the show on Twitter at PHNX_Suns. You can follow me at Lindsay Smith AZ. You can follow Saul at Saul_Bookman. You can follow Gerald at Gerald Bourget. And of course, you can follow Espo at Espo. Espo, take us home.
Remember, anything's possible, even becoming a human ambulance. Wee-oo, wee-oo, wee-oo. Oh, boy.
Megas in control and he ain't never gonna let go. PHNX though, Lindsay, Gerald, Espo. Saw past the ball, we here to turn up the tempo. Got to understand me, I'll always rep the family. Rally in the valley.